Okie dokie. All right, I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. Bob? Here. Ed? Here. Dave? Here. Jim? Here. Dan? Here. Laura? Here. Tim? Here. Amy? Here. Kent? Present. Okay. Public hearing number 1, amended conditional use permit, DELC 0790999.001, West 367 Oakwood Drive, DELC 0790.999.002, W345 Oakwood Drive, DELC 079.999.003, W277 Oakwood Drive, Delafield. Owner applicant Rogers Memorial Hospital. Discussion and possible action regarding a request to provide temporary flexibility during emergency situations. Is there anyone that would like to speak to public hearing number 1? Is there anyone that would like to speak to public hearing number 1? Seeing none, public hearing number 1 is now closed. Okay, we'll move on to item 1, approved Planning Commission minute meetings of April 29th, 2020, unless there's corrections.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, number 2, consent agenda. None. I think that's a first for me.
That is.
Yeah. I think that's a first.
Yeah.
9 or 10 years, that's a first. Okay,
Should we
3.
make a motion on it?
I don't think so.
Maybe we want more?
Okay, item number 3, City of Delafield citizens' comments pertaining to items on or off the agenda. Citizens' comments have been provided before the meeting and have been provided to the commission members in advance of the meeting, and to my knowledge, we did not receive any of those, correct? So are there any citizens' comments for items on the agenda? Come on up, Susie. Just remind you, name and address, and don't touch the mic.
Susie Thompson, 700 Milwaukee Street. I do have a question. It's a compliment for Zinn's at 629 Main Street. As neighbors, we are all very excited about the outdoor seating that they're going to do. But I did have a question. On the northwest corner, well, on the back side of the building, which would be backing the alley, the drawings show that there are 7 parking spots, when actually there are only 6. The northwest corner has gravel and it tips down. It's not got asphalt, and I just wondered if they were going to add that extra space because, as we know, downtown parking will become even more and more of a premium with time. The other question that I had was the southwest corner. So with paving between the building and the sidewalk, leaving a 2-foot strip, I understand, of grass, which isn't good. There is what I believe is an ash tree on the southwest corner, and as we all know, ash are diseased. I assume that tree is coming down, but I just wanted clarification from Dennis on that. It is a tree that has some scars on the side, it has dead branches in it, and it's suckering up at the bottom, which is what trees do when they're dying. So just had those 2 as questions. I did also talk to the next door neighbor to Zinn's, Stofers, who have Holy Cow, and they're not here tonight, but they said that they're very much also in support. So just wanted to mention that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, any other citizens' comments for items on or off the agenda? Any other citizens' comments? Hearing none, citizens' comments are now closed. We'll move on to 4A, unfinished business, items recommended for discussion and possible action. Rogers Memorial Hospital, applicant seeks approval for amended conditional use to allow for temporary flexibility during emergency situations. And you're from Rogers, I can tell by your shirt. If you want to come up and give us your name and address, and have 2 chairs for you, and hand sanitizer if you need it, but please try not to touch the mics. Otherwise, our cleaning man has to come and clean them.
Barbara with South
24 West 22035 Broadway in Waukesha. And I'm Vice President of Facilities for Rogers.
Bob Snyder, I'm attorney for Rogers, 100 South Main Street, Suite 201, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin.
Great. Amy, you want to set it up for us?
Sure. So we just heard this, or had a discussion regarding this matter at our last meeting in April. The applicants are proposing flexibility during emergency situations. This would go beyond an emergency declaration approved by the mayor. So they're also seeking for flexibility during an emergency situation that the mayor deems appropriate. So specifically, they'd be looking at flexibility in the types of folks that they serve, maybe the number of folks that they serve, and then the timing of that flexibility would be determined by the mayor as well. All other conditions of the existing CU would remain as is. The only thing that I wanted to mention before you guys did pursue taking motion, I did include a conditional use agreement, a draft agreement that we would need to sign and record at the city. It does include a paragraph about how they could amend the patients. However, all other provisions would remain in effect, and in no event shall patients who have exhibited recent psychosis evidenced by violent or disruptive behavior be eligible for entry into any program at the facility. The mayor may include additional restrictions, limitations, and requirements in any such approval. And then on the expiration of any approval, no further action shall be needed to amend the conditional use permit back to its original status. At the last meeting, there was some discussion regarding not allowing modifications to the type of treatments such as the eating disorder element of it. That is not in the draft conditional use. So if that is something that you want included as a restriction, then that needs to be part of the motion. And we can make that amendment for common council.
So question, is it still based on the new conditional use draft? Is it still based on the mayor's discretion about what types of conditions would be included? Do they have to divulge that?
The mayor needs to approve all elements of it. So the mayor may grant a temporary amendment to the CUP to allow Rogers to use the property for reasonable alternative purposes and/or populations during the pendency of such situation and for a reasonable period after that situation. And then it goes on, but it's all determined by the mayor.
And so as far as the applicant, is that what your understanding is too? Is that you need to apply and divulge
Yes.
exactly what your condition? Yeah, okay. Well, I'll make a motion to approve this conditional use update to allow temporary flexibility during emergency situations.
Is there, oh, I'm sorry, who was the second? Dave? Dave seconded that. We got to make sure we say our names for Sally.
Dave, second.
All right, is there any discussion?
I have a couple of questions. I note in your criteria for admission on this particular program, that remains the same, limited to eating disorder.
Yes.
And in this one, it goes from adult to child, basically, from the group that you're talking about. So the question I have, when you put discretion within the control of the mayor, is there any review process to that's part of this, you understand may be part of it? For example, if somebody neighbor, like, we've got to remember the history of this case. Mm-hmm. If there is a neighbor who has an issue, is there a review process available to anything that the mayor may act in accordance with your request? I just want to be sure that we all understand it, that if that comes up, and I think the commission should understand, in any due process situation, discretion is obviously the better part of valor here, but we never know what is going to be around the corner. We want to make sure that this is an eating disorder, not expanded to some other area. That's why the conditional use is specific to it. So maybe if you want to address that.
Yeah, one of the things is it could potentially not be an eating disorder but that's what we were trying to address before. It could potentially be another treatment based on what we need to do to shuffle the deck. I mean, the reason we really needed to shuffle the deck this time, and it's been a very big exercise in frustration, not here, okay, at the state level, was because people were paranoid I shouldn't use the word paranoid, but they were afraid of having a roommate when this first came up. And it made it very difficult. For us to be tied into eating disorder may be very difficult too, but that's why we didn't want to have any discretion. We're saying at the mayor's discretion. And it can't be anybody, we reiterated the restriction that it can't be anybody that's had a dangerous episode. I don't have the exact language, but Alderman Aker had said that earlier. So I just want to make it clear that we're not trying to limit this to just eating disorders. This could be something else that would be probably in the mild category, and the mayor is going to have the word on that.
Well, and that's why I brought it up, to make sure that you fully understand that that's within his discretion and then subject
Yes.
to whatever review process would be available. And the exclusions under your criteria still maintain, that is, people who are of a condition of violence or a condition of some sort of psychosis that doesn't fit within this type of disorder are still excluded.
Yes. And that's not, our intent is just to have flexibility to put something else that's would be acceptable to the neighborhood in there as determined by the mayor for a very temporary period of time.
And that's all good, because what you're doing as a service to the community as a whole, and in particular to the individuals involved, is admirable, and we've been supportive of it from the outcome, from the beginning, and we continue to support it. I just want to make sure we all understand what the limits are and what other recourses may be available. Hopefully they will not be occurring again, but I really thank you for your efforts and what you're doing for the right reasons, and for a very admirable cause for people who do not have the control that they need.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we appreciate how accommodating Delafield has been for us during this process. We sincerely hope that we never have to come to the mayor with a unusual situation. Hopefully things will just calm down and stay normal.
Does the mayor determine the time limit of how long it lasts?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any review process on that after a certain length of time?
Not that I recall in the document, no. I mean, it was a question I asked too. I mean, I support the motion, but generally speaking, whether I'm the mayor or somebody else is the mayor, who knows? I happen to have background on this one because I was an alder person when we had some of the issues with the neighbors and stuff, and I've gone on the tours. But the next mayor may have no background whatsoever. So I wouldn't necessarily, recommend this type of process for us, but this is it's a very unique, truly one-off type of thing, and I'm sure a mayor would consult others before they would make such a decision. But the thing here is speed, right? And when you have an emergency, it needs to be done quickly, which is something that when you have a mayor that can make that decision, it can get done quick. Like in your situation, we turned the approval around in 48 hours, right? I mean, that just, it'd be sick. It would be minimum 2 months, 3 months to go through this process, right? So it is unique in that way, but generally speaking, I wouldn't want to put things on the mayor like that. So,
well, I think that's a worthy discussion, simply because it's not open-ended, and that it's subject to review, and hopefully you communicate with whomever's in charge, whether it's you or the current mayor, just so we understand it's not an open-ended process. It's subject to review by the mayor and maybe review beyond that. So there's an understanding that it's not just out there.
Absolutely. And this is not something that we would undertake lightly. It would have to be an extreme situation before we would want to make all those moves, because obviously there's the people who are currently in that program would need to go somewhere. So it would not be something that we would choose to do unless we didn't see an alternative.
Thank you.
all right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes? Great, thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I believe we're moving to 5A. New business. Items recommended for discussion and possible action. DLC 07599.017, 2520 Negwick Road, owner applicant Stephen Rittenhouse. Applicant seeks approval of site plan and appearance review for the addition of an accessory building that exceeds an overall size of 1,200 square feet. Amy, want to help us get started?
Okay, so if you reviewed the packet, you'll see that the applicant provided some great images of the property. So we have a 3-acre property on Nagawicka Road. The applicant is proposing a 1,296 square foot addition to a horse barn that you can see on the picture in the screen. The existing horse barn is also 1,296 square feet, so the building would be a total of 2,592 square feet. All accessory buildings that are greater than 1,200 square feet require plan commission approval through the site plan and appearance review process. The building will not exceed 18 feet in height, and the property is served by a septic system and well, but there's no plumbing being provided in the building. They have a water trough outside. The building also complies with all the dimensional standards, and the colors and materials will match the existing building, and we've got some good pictures of that. So it truly is a horse barn type structure. They do house horses, and there is a fence. Let's see, the horse barn is accessed through a private drive, although the home is accessed directly off of Nagawicka. And the building is pretty well screened from all the adjacent properties. You can see there's quite a bit of vegetation. I would say the house to the south can see the building, but again, the addition is behind the existing building, so it's pretty well screened. And then they do have evergreens along the road too. We recommend approval, subject to the size and design as proposed by the applicant and subject to a building permit being issued by the building inspector.
I'd like for them to see some of the additional screens that you've got
Sure.
of the building.
So we can go through it real quickly.
By the way, I'm Steve Rittenhouse. I'm at 2520 Nagawicka Road.
Thank you.
And I'm the one that submitted this. This is just a rendering that came.
Sorry. Operator.
A rendering of the addition where the horse barn is in the front, and then this is just the addition in the back. And the reason that this was chosen in this direction, which is a cross beam for roof line, is that I thought it was more architecturally interesting, and work with architects and engineers around the country. And this particular one would fit into the environment. I think it would look beautiful. It would have the same asphalt shingles on it, as well as the same materials being built by Morton Builders. So I do think it's a beautiful addition to that particular property.
Yeah, I think it looks good. I'm just curious, do you actually keep horses in there or just other things?
Well, right now, there's the front of the building as we look at it from the house. Right now, she's got a horse that she keeps in Wausau. And so she's bringing the Friesian. It's a big Friesian that she's bringing down. And she wants to get an additional horse, although I'd like a beer donkey personally.
Got room.
Well,
You maybe could have
they're
both.
great great for calming the horses too.
Yeah, and well, horses I understand need to be social. Even though I grew up on a farm, I didn't pay a lot of attention to them personally. But horses need to be social, so she needed more than one horse. But her horse, Nicholas, the Friesian, would be coming down from Wausau.
So this extra space building, I like it because it looks like it was always there.
Yeah.
Is this going to also be for storage, like hay and grain and equipment?
We have to, because if you go back to the other screen, the existing building, when you open it up, the horse has to go from his stable to the inside of the building. And there's wash stations for the horse inside. There's no room to even put hay in there. So I need that to put hay in and grain and tack and whatever else she comes up with.
Any equipment also.
And probably equipment, yeah. I'm learning about that, even though, again.
Poopers, scoopers?
I ride the Harley. I know about the horse.
I grew up on a farm with three horses.
Yeah. Well, we
So I
have
know.
3 too, but
Yeah.
it's been a long time.
I know what it all entails.
But this is something that she always wanted to do, and she's 61 years old now, and had a lot of ups and downs in her life. By God, bring the horse down, and let's see what we can do to make that more comfortable and improve the property, and I think the environment as well.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful addition.
it is.
We have a motion on this one?
Motion to approve the 36 by 36 foot barn addition as presented this evening, subject to issuance of a building permit.
Second.
Second, Jim seconded, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Dan made the motion.
Great. Okay.
I'll make a comment.
Yep.
There's a lot of things in our zoning code that are carved out specifically based on lot size and other things to maintain the ability to have livestock and horses and that in the city. And I really enjoy the fact that this is the direction this particular lot is going on, and like a lot of lots, is to take advantage of that as opposed to trying to figure out a way to cut it into 2 or 3 different lots and put more people and cars and impervious surfaces on it. So I'm 100% in favor. So.
Well, there's also a beautiful horse trail behind our, that property.
I
It
get
goes
it.
on for miles.
I
Yeah.
know. Perfect. So I'm just, thank you for, I think this is what, a great use of the land, in my opinion.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Passes. Thank you.
Get that donkey now.
Yeah, get
Yeah,
that.
good luck on the donkey.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay, we'll move on to 5B. 4607 Vettleson Road, owner applicant Babylon Rose LLC, Bruce Gallagher. Applicant seeks business plan of operation and site plan and appearance review for the new business operation known as Gallagher Family Medicine and associated site modifications. Name and address?
Bruce Gallagher. I live at 5892 North Oakland Road in Neshota.
Great. Amy, can you give us a rundown?
Okay, so I'll give this a whirl. Bruce did revise his plan, so if I'm incorrect in anything, please, speak up, okay, Bruce? The applicant is proposing a business plan of operation and site plan and appearance review to operate a medical center. This is the property that was occupied by Sandy Bottom Nature Center up until recently. The applicant did very recently purchase the property and has started cleaning up the property quite a bit. There is still some landscape materials, but apparently there was quite a bit more. The property contains about 2.9 acres and it is served by septic and private well. It's zone B6 commercial holding. And there's a mix of residential and commercial uses in the nearby area. You may know that Village Square is directly to the east. That's part of a planned development conditional use. This property was previously part of a separate planned development conditional use for Sandy Bottom. That is when they began operation in 1996. Since then, that use and the use proposed by the applicant is a permitted use by right in the district, so it does not need a conditional use permit. The applicant did previously occupy space on Genesee Street, just south of the river, but they outgrew that space, so they're proposing, again, to be here and stay in the city of Delafield. They do see limited patients throughout the day. This isn't your typical in and out. At most, they'll probably see 8 to 10 patients. There's 3 full-time employees. They operate 9 through 6, Monday through Friday. They will occupy out of the existing building with limited improvements on the outside. Those improvements are on the west elevation, and I will go to those. So on the west elevation, there's 2 garage stalls. They'll be removing one of those garage stalls and putting in a window that is very similar to the other windows on that same side. And then the north, I think in my report I mentioned that the north end of the building is proposed for future not expansion in space, but they were going to leave it vacant in the interim period, but they have revised their plans and that is going to be a conference space. Bruce, is that going to be a conference space right away?
It'll just be an empty room until we need to use the space.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just know that,
It's drywalled, it's finished, we're just leaving that alone as opposed to the rest of the space, which we are reconfiguring into workspace.
and then there are 2 versions of a site plan. The first version that shows the existing structures did not survey all of the driveway improvements. So the plan that you see on the screen does show additional parking spaces which are required for the medical use. But that asphalt is already present, so they are not making any improvements other than they do need to mark the stalls based on the number that are required, which the applicant will do. He's going to come back in June to propose signage. They are not prepared to do that at this time, but they would like to get started in July, so they want to get as many approvals as possible. Other than that, if there are no other questions, I will go ahead.
Are they having to change their lighting?
The application does not include any lighting changes. Bruce, are you making any?
We're not planning on changing any lighting.
Okay.
No.
No changes to the lighting or landscaping. Right now, when I visited the property in the pictures, you can see there's quite a bit of vegetation that screens the property pretty well. I'm going to make a guess that the previous owner used a lot of native vegetation, so it's really hard to tell whether or not that's aesthetically pleasing at this time of year. But we are recommending approval. Or I am as part of my plan report, subject to a few conditions here. I can get it to show up. No signage shall be installed until all necessary city approvals are obtained. All parking stalls need to be marked prior to commencing the operation. No changes to the lighting and no dumpsters are permitted without additional site plan and appearance approval. The existing owner does have a couple of dumpsters and they are not screened. This use very well may not need any dumpsters at all, but if they do propose them, they need to come in for that approval and they should be screened. And then the landscape and material shall be removed from the property prior to commencement of the operation. When I say that, I mean the sandy bottom equipment and other landscaping materials that are out there.
And that'll probably be finished in a week or so. There's been a lot of cleanup over there in the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
So I have a question. What, maybe it's in here, it didn't jump out at me. What type of medical practice is this for?
So I'm not the doctor, my wife is.
Okay.
My part-time job is helping her run the business. Dr. Rebecca Gallagher. So we opened, it's basically a family medicine, the old-fashioned way clinic right down here in the old stone. It was originally a blacksmith shop we discovered as we were renovating this one. She's outgrown it. She's got a PA that works for her and a nurse. So it's the three of them. We just need more space. This building came up. It fits the whole sort of concept and approach that they have, which is not going into a big sort of institutional feeling, big box, big medicine. They give really great personalized care. And we love the location, the setting. It's right here still in Delafield. So we decided to go this route, expand a little bit.
Despite the Highway 16 and the train tracks near there, you wouldn't think they were around. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful piece of property.
Yeah.
So this is contingent upon future business plan of operation approval?
The business plan of operation is actually written into the report.
Okay.
And the site plan and appearance, but they need to come back for signage.
Okay, and those hours suit you? That's as wide as you'd want it? Because you've got, I think, 9 to 6, Monday through Friday? I mean, I'm just...
So you have 9 to 6, Monday through Friday, hours of delivery, 9 to 5.
It's easier to contract them than it is to expand them?
You know...
That's kind of where I'm going.
If she needs to, she'll run over there and meet someone on the weekend or at night. It doesn't happen very often. These are the planned office hours.
Okay.
But
I just suggest, however, when that's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how we can convey that. Just, very often we get applications where people are like really focused on exactly what they typically do and not what they might do. And I want everyone to understand, with the light of day, what the hours could conceivably be at the extremes. You know what I mean?
So you may want to add in your
Saturday.
motion, you know, and by appointment on weekends during these same hours?
Or add 8 to 5 on the weekend.
Can we amend it via the motion
Yeah.
from what I've got here?
What would you suggest? I'm just,
Well, then I'd say, why wouldn't we broaden it based upon the conversation that we're having? You know, as a just in case. I think if we said 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. would be pretty typical. And if we could maybe amend it to include or other times as needed based upon an emergency situation. Because that's really about what it would be.
Well, I think you could expand it even more than just emergency, because it may be a situation where somebody can't come in from their work or that time frame.
Yeah.
It's not an emergency, but because of their condition,
Yeah.
their location, their job,
Right.
extenuating circumstances, basically upon cause, reasonable cause,
Right.
I think is what is more reasonable.
let me try a motion, we'll discuss it. I'll make a motion to approve the application as submitted, given hours of operation of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Daily, with appointment only access from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Is
Sounds
that
good.
7 days a week?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention passes.
Good
Great,
luck.
you're
Good
approved.
luck.
Welcome to the
Thank
city
you.
of Delafield.
We'll be back to tell you what we're doing with signs next month.
Okay.
All right.
Now, we're
Thanks,
sticklers
everybody.
on signs, so be ready.
No lights or waving anything.
Well, it's just a loss to the downtown.
No, I said say flashing.
It'll fill
Flashing
in.
lights.
No flashing.
I'm always confident.
Okay, we'll move on to
It's only
5C.
Yeah.
629 Main Street, owner
I don't
applicant
know.
Dennis Sobczak.
so.
Applicant seeks approval of site plan and appearance review for outdoor seating in the front yard between the building and Main Street. And we have a question about the 7th parking spot and the ash tree. Amy, want to give us an overview?
Sure. So you probably know where Zinn is. I won't go into the location, but the applicant is proposing outdoor seating just directly adjacent to Main Street. He would install concrete pads on each side of the entrance sidewalk. You will see in the packet that he proposed a plan that includes seating. When he originally came in, he was proposing to go into the right-of-way, so the number of seating will be reduced because those concrete areas will also be reduced. He has agreed to reduce the patio area so that it does not extend into the right-of-way, which will leave about a 2-foot gap between the concrete pads and the existing sidewalk. And then with the outdoor seating, he is proposing some string lighting similar to Belfry, and then he would place planter boxes to kind of break up the area between the seating and again the sidewalk and right-of-way. And then the tables and chairs, I believe, Dennis, they're similar to what you already have on the side of the building. And as you know, he does have seating outside on the west side of the existing building. So I will just kind of scroll through the pictures, but I don't really have that much more to add, other than the grade does drop just a bit from the existing improved area, so he has to step down, and then, or folks will have, they'll be seating on the concrete pad, they'll step up to get up to the building, if that makes sense.
So it's going to be level with the sidewalk, and then you step up?
And then you'll step up to get into the building.
Well, I know I'll be using it when you build it.
Only if we approve it.
So, yeah.
When he builds it.
On this site plan, you can see where the concrete pads are going. On the right side, they will extend from the sidewalk that leads you up to the building to the sidewalk that runs along the east property line. And then the concrete pad on the west side of the entry sidewalk will extend to the existing seating area that exists on the west elevation. And he will be getting rid of some landscaping, you can see. And he's got planter boxes. I did put in the recommendation that the planner review and approve the plantings. I think it would be nice. He's just showing this as an example, but it'd be nice to have some diversity in color and species just to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing and brighten up the area. So the recommendation is subject to a couple of conditions. I apologize, it just takes a little while for the screen to move around. Okay, so all improvements, including the concrete pads, seating, planters, and lighting, shall remain outside of the public road right-of-way. The sidewalk shall remain free and clear for pedestrian access at all times. And the seating material shall remain consistent with the pictures submitted unless otherwise approved by staff in order to ensure consistency and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. And the same goes for the lighting and plantings and planter boxes.
One question. Did we get our question answered that Susan had?
And the parking, just so you know, there are no requirements for on-site parking, so he's not required to have the 7 spaces. I actually grabbed that site plan in order to identify how big the concrete pads could be outside of the right-of-way. So I can't guarantee that that's the plan that was reviewed for parking or not, but it was really meant to be provided as a site plan for this proposal. But the applicant's not proposing any changes to parking, correct, Dennis?
Correct. If you could get another place there, you'd probably do it, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I say if you get another parking place there, you'd probably make it happen.
I sure would. That
No, I get it.
Is stone for runoff.
Yeah.
Water runoff.
Understood.
And then can you speak to the tree?
And I'm always available for a phone call or stop by. I can't speak to the tree. I'm not sure if it's my tree or Jim's tree, but I will certainly get on that immediately and take a look.
But you're not proposing to remove it otherwise as part of this
I'm
project?
not even sure what tree we're even talking about, to be honest with you. I'm not aware of any.
Southwest corner place.
Let me see if it shows up in this picture.
So,
Does it show up?
Yeah.
West.
With the red umbrella.
Right here? Oh, southeast?
On the bottom left.
Over here.
That one. But if you look at the other picture that shows it from the back side of the building, that picture. It's the tree in between the two lampposts, the black lamppost and the other one. It's
right
that
here.
tree.
Yeah, that's not on my property. That's not our tree. And I believe those were put in by the city when they redid the sidewalks and the brick along the areas there, and they did the curbs. I believe the city put that tree.
yeah, I'm just looking on the GIS site with the,
Again,
I'm having a hard time finding a tree on your property. So,
I think that should be defined.
What's going to happen?
And if it is dead, I think then it should be removed because a dead tree is a hazard.
sure.
Well, the only concern with making that part of this motion, if it's not his, he won't have control over it.
Right. And I
And I
agree.
think the tree is actually alive and well. I'm not.
Is it?
I
Okay, because
believe so.
it's hard to tell right there.
City forester could help out there.
Yeah,
I think
With both right away, whose it is,
Right.
and if it's alive or.
Right,
It says-
yeah,
Like,
Sean?
I'm telling you for a fact that
There
that
you
tree is
go.
not on my property.
I think that's an ancillary issue here.
right,
Yeah, I think that's,
So I
If
think
the
as long
tree's
as
on
we're
your
reviewing
property,
this, we
if
should-
it's dead, you'll work with us, right?
Right.
Yes.
I wouldn't make it a
Yeah.
part of the motion.
It's not, it's just that it's an issue that I think that should be recognized
Yeah.
and we should somehow take care of that issue.
I'll make a note that we should contact the forester.
Yeah.
So I have one question, Dennis. You heard the recitation by Amy concerning the subject to various conditions that she recommended in here. You're familiar with all those 4 conditions?
Yes, no
And you have no
questions.
problem with those? You'll
No
comply with those?
Absolutely.
Thank you, that's it.
And my wife is in charge of plantings, and she redoes our stuff every year.
All right, I'll make a
Nice
motion to
move.
approve based on the recommendations by the city planner as documented in the agenda.
Second.
Any
Dave.
discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it,
Please
Dennis.
stop back and
Thanks.
see us.
That's a guarantee.
Thank you, Dennis.
I've never been there.
Okay, 5D,
That's good.
2901 Gulf Road, owner Nagawicka Square LLC, applicant American Towers Corporation. Applicant seeks approval of certified survey map to combine two adjacent lots. Amy?
Okay, so the Plan Commission reviewed a proposal from American Tower Corporation a few months ago related to a bigger equipment facility building associated with the cell tower. As one of the conditions for that, the applicant needed to provide a certified survey map because the building did not comply with the side yard setback. And it actually, if you look at GIS, it does show up as one single tax key and it's occupied as a single parcel, but there's been transfers of adjacent lands and there is indeed actually a lot line just to the west of this equipment shelter. So the applicant has proposed to combine the parcels to rectify the issue, which is great because then that little triangular piece complies with the zoning requirements, whereas it doesn't currently. And the applicant is going to provide documentation to ensure that the leased area for the cell tower does include the entirety of the building that's going to be constructed and has already been approved by the Plan Commission. I don't really have any other comments other than that the surveyor had several comments that the applicant is working on. One of the comments does talk about how it would be preferred if there happens to be some asphalt that extends into the stormwater easement currently, if that easement area could be revised. And I will let Mike speak to that, but it sounds like there's quite a bit of negotiation that has to occur in order for that to be amended, and it's already an existing condition. So that's something that you may want to discuss here tonight. Again, that wasn't a requirement of the surveyor, it was a recommendation of the applicant. I believe that's all I have, so we recommend approval subject to the surveyor conditions being met.
All right, do you want to give us your name and address?
Absolutely. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Bienick. I'm with a company called LCC Telecom Services. We are located at 10700 West Higgins Road, Suite 240 in Rosemont, Illinois. I am here representing American Tower. I think Amy pretty much hit the nail on the head. We've been through this with the expansion of the equipment shelter. Basically, we're taking out the existing one, putting in a larger one, and it does go over the existing lot line, therefore the CSM. Item number 7 on the surveyor's comments, we're not going to be working in that area, so that really does not apply to our application as far as we feel. The other items, we are currently working, our surveyor is working on it. I should have the revisions back tomorrow and I will submit them to Amy for the surveyor's review. So that's essentially where we stand. If you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Motion to approve the CSM as presented this evening, subject to the surveyor comments minus item number 7.
I'll second.
Okay, second was from Laura.
Does that include that's going to include the update to the lease, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we do have a lease. They had to do a lease amendment in order
Okay.
to expand the shelter, so we would definitely provide
All right.
staff with a copy of that.
All right, is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, 6 zoning ordinance revisions. I won't. Item recommended for discussion and possible action, none. 7, reports of city officials. Clerk. I did have one note I wanted to report for the clerk, just to give you an update, is we did not receive anything from the gun club. So the due date on an update has come and gone, and we did not receive anything.
Surprise.
Therefore, they are not on the agenda, but that's because we didn't receive anything as you all requested.
Is that open for
That's why we did
comment,
it.
or-
No, just the clerk's report. Okay. Number 1, Planning Commission meeting dates and deadlines. Next meeting is June 24th, 2020. Meeting submittal deadline is June 9th, 2020. Refer you to any correspondence, which I believe there were none. Planners report?
None.
None. Building inspectors report? None. Seeing no further business, we are now adjourned at 7:45.